You are not a bad parent. Say that again before we go any further. You are not a bad parent. You show up. You feed them, hold them, worry about them at 2 a.m. when they cough. You research, you try, you adjust. You are the kind of parent who watches videos like this one, and that alone separates you from the ones who never ask questions at all. So this is not about blame. This is not a list of things you did wrong. This is something much more specific and much more uncomfortable than blame. This is about the gap between what you intend and what your child's nervous system actually receives. That gap is invisible to most parents, not because they don't care enough to see it, but because the habits that create it look completely reasonable from the outside. They look like love. They feel like love. In many cases, they are in love, just love landing somewhere other than where you aimed it. By the time you reach number 7, you will have recognized yourself at least twice. Not because you are doing something wrong, because you are doing something human. And once you see the gap, once you understand the precise moment where intention and impact separate, you will find yourself making slightly different choices. Not all the time, not perfectly, but enough. And with a child, enough is everything. Let's start. Number 1, doing things for them before they even have a chance to try. This one comes from the purest place imaginable. You see your child struggling with their shoes and your hands move before your brain does. You hear the frustration building in their voice and you step in. You finish the sentence, open the jar, smooth the path before the trip happens. You do this because you love them and because watching them struggle is genuinely painful for you. Here is what the research shows about that pain response. A 2019 study at the University of Minnesota followed 422 children from preschool through early adolescence, tracking the relationship between parental over-involvement and children's self-regulation skills. What they found overturned the assumption that helping children more produces more capable children. Children who were consistently helped before they had a chance to attempt a task on their own showed significantly lower frustration tolerance by age 8. Not because they were weak, because their nervous systems had never built the circuitry for managing failure. Every time a parent intervened before difficulty arrived, the brain received a quiet signal. You cannot handle this without help. Repeated 10,000 times, that signal becomes a belief. And children who carry that belief do not become grateful for all the help they received. They become children who fall apart when help is not available, who blame others when things go wrong, who melt down at obstacles that their peers take in stride. The shift is not abandoning them. The shift is 3 seconds. Wait 3 seconds before you move. Let them try. Let them feel the edge of the difficulty. Step in only when the attempt is genuinely over. 3 seconds of discomfort for them now is 3 years of resilience later. Number 2, using rewards as the main language of cooperation. Every parent has done this. The flight is long, the checkout line is longer, and you hear yourself say, "If you behave right now, I will get you something." In isolation, that moment is harmless. Children respond to incentives. Adults respond to incentives. There's nothing wrong with a reward. The problem begins when the reward becomes the reason. Researchers at the University of Rochester studied children's motivation across 2 conditions over a series of tasks. In one condition, children were praised for the behavior itself, the effort, the kindness, the choice. In the other condition, they were given tangible rewards for the same behaviors. The findings were striking. Children in the reward condition showed less intrinsic motivation over time. They began to evaluate whether the task was worth doing, based entirely on whether something was being offered for it. When the reward disappeared, the behavior disappeared with it. What this builds, over years of consistent reward-based cooperation, is a child who is not learning to be kind, helpful, or respectful. They are learning to calculate. Is there something in this for me? When the answer is no, the cooperation stops. These are the children who are charming in front of adults who can give them things and dismissive of everyone who cannot. The replacement is simpler than a reward and more durable than any prize. It is genuine, specific appreciation, not a good job. Now I'll give you something. Something like, "I noticed you shared without being asked, and that was a real act of kindness." Name the behavior. Name what it meant. that lands in a completely different part of the brain than a sticker chart does, and it stays there. Number 3. Being physically present but emotionally somewhere else. Your child is telling you something. You are in the room. Your body is there, nodding, making the sounds of listening. But your mind is in tomorrow's schedule, or last night's argument, or the notification that just lit up your screen. They keep talking, you keep nodding, and somewhere in the middle of that exchange, something very quiet happens. They notice, not consciously, not in words, but in the body. The nervous system of a child is extraordinarily sensitive to whether an adult's attention is genuine or performed. A 2014 study published in the journal Child Development found that parental distraction during child-initiated conversation was associated with children showing increased attention-seeking behaviors over time, not because the children were manipulative, but because their nervous systems were responding logically to an unmet need. When the ordinary request for connection goes unanswered, the request gets louder, more disruptive, more impossible to ignore. The child who flips the cup, interrupts constantly, asks the same question 4 times. That child is not being difficult. They are doing the only thing a child can do when the signal is being sent but not received. They are turning up the volume. 3 minutes of full, unperformed attention is neurologically different from 30 minutes of divided attention. Put the phone face down. Stop what you are doing. Look at them like what they are saying is the most important thing being said anywhere right now, because to them it is. Number 4. Never apologizing when you are wrong. This one is quiet. It does not feel like a habit because it feels like authority. Many parents were raised to believe that apologizing to a child undermines their position. That children need to see their parents as certain, steady, and above correction. That belief is understandable. It is also wrong. A 2020 study from the University of California, Davis examined the relationship between parental accountability behaviors and children's social development. Children whose parents modeled genuine apology, not performative, not defensive, but honest acknowledgement of a mistake, showed significantly higher levels of empathy and conflict resolution skills by age 10. The mechanism is simple. Children do not learn honesty by being told to be honest. They learn it by watching adults be honest when it is uncomfortable. The parent who says, "I was too harsh earlier, I'm sorry that wasn't fair," is not losing their authority. They are demonstrating exactly the behavior they want to see. The parent who never apologizes teaches their child that the goal, when wrong, is to defend the wrong rather than acknowledge it. These children grow into people who cannot say sorry, not because they lack empathy, but because they learned from the most important person in their world that admitting fault is something strong people do not do. You can be the correction. You just have to be willing to be seen correcting yourself first. Number 5. Rules that change based on your mood. Yesterday it was fine, today it is not. Yesterday you let it go because you were tired. Today you came down hard because you were already frustrated about something else. The rule itself did not change. Your emotional state changed, and the rule changed with it. From a child's developmental perspective, this is among the most disorienting experiences in a household. Researchers at Stanford University studying early childhood behavioral development found that parental inconsistency, not harshness, not permissiveness, but inconsistency, was the single strongest predictor of rule-testing behavior in children ages 3 to 8. Not because children wanted to push boundaries out of defiance, but because, in an unpredictable environment, testing is the only way to locate where the boundary actually is. If the boundary moves, the child must keep testing to find it. What this pattern quietly builds over time is a child who does not follow rules. They follow moods. They learn to read the emotional temperature of a room before they decide how to behave. They become experts at performing compliance when observed and abandoning it entirely when the watcher looks away. Because the rule was never really the rule. The mood was the rule. And they learned that. Consistency does not mean perfection. It means the same rule exists on the hard days that existed on the easy ones. Number 6. Measuring your child against someone else's child. She is already reading at that level. He already knows how to do that. Your cousin's daughter is only a year older and she can already. The comparison always comes dressed as motivation. It rarely lands that way. A 2017 study published in the Journal of Child Psychology and Psychiatry examined the long-term effects of social comparison parenting on children's self-concept across 611 families over a 6-year period. Children who were regularly compared unfavorably to peers, siblings, or cousins showed one of two behavioral trajectories by middle childhood. The first group became driven, but driven by shame, not by genuine confidence. They worked to prove worth, not to express it. The second group withdrew. They stopped trying in areas where comparison had made them feel permanently behind. Neither outcome is what a parent intends when they say, "Look at what your friend can do." The intention is usually encouragement. The impact on a child's nervous system is something more like the person who is supposed to love you unconditionally just told you someone else is doing better. Every child is on a unique developmental schedule that has nothing to do with the child next door. When you notice your child has grown, not compared to anyone else, just compared to who they were yesterday, and you name that out loud, you are building something that comparison can never build. You are building a child who measures themselves against themselves. Those children become adults who improve because they want to, not because they are afraid of falling behind. Number 7, confusing emotional availability with spoiling. This is the misunderstanding at the root of more behavioral difficulty than almost any other habit on this list. And it is the one most consciously held by parents who are genuinely trying to do right by their children. The reasoning goes like this. If I always go to them when they cry, they will become dependent. If I always comfort them when they are afraid, they will never learn to handle fear. If I give them too much warmth, they will not be able to handle the real world. The goal is resilience. The method is withholding. That reasoning is not supported by the research. A landmark series of studies conducted by developmental psychologist Dr. Trubrier, Mary Ainsworth, and replicated across multiple institutions over 3 decades found that children who were consistently responded to emotionally held when scared, comforted when distressed, reassured when uncertain, did not become more dependent over time. They became more independent. The mechanism is counterintuitive but consistent. A child who knows they have a safe emotional base to return to is a child willing to venture out from it. The child who's pushed toward independence before they are ready does not become independent. They become anxious. They search constantly, in behavior, in relationships, in attention seeking, for the safety they never had enough of. Spoiling is not holding them when they cry. Spoiling is not being their emotional safe place. Spoiling is giving them objects instead of presents, things instead of attention, compliance instead of limits. A child who is full emotionally, genuinely, consistently full, does not need to act out for connection. They already have it. Let them lean on you all the way, for as long as they need. When their emotional needs are met fully and consistently, they will grow away from you on their own schedule. Not because you pushed them, because they were ready. 7 habits. None of them were born from not caring. All of them born from caring and not quite landing where you aimed. The research is not asking you to be a perfect parent. It is asking you to close the gap between the love you feel and the love your child is able to receive. The moment you understand what is happening inside your child's nervous system during these ordinary moments, you will find yourself making slightly different choices. Not all the time, not perfectly, but enough. And enough with a child who is still watching you and still learning from you every single day is everything. Which of these 7 was the one you needed to hear today? Leave it in the comments. Not the one that made you feel worse, but the one you genuinely did not know. The parent who reads your comment at midnight, wondering if they are the only one, needs to know they are not alone. Next week, we are going inside something most parents never question. The way you respond in the first 5 seconds after your child does something wrong. The neuroscience behind that window is not what most parents assume, and what happens in those 5 seconds shapes more than any consequence that comes after.